Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Nigerian Nerd. On the show, as usual, is Oche Young Jollof Edache. We have a bit of a different show lined up for today, and I'm just going to start with this little phrase: rate of technological change. Right now, right, the world we live in is one in which, like 10 years ago, we could like barely fathom. Like between the making of the first iPhone to like the iPhone 2 to the 3 to the 4 to the 6 to now we're on the 13, right? We've gotten to a point where like in between each phone there was such a massive gap like covered in terms of like technological change, in terms of like features and functionality, in terms of processing power. We've gotten to a point now where we're used to having super HD cameras. Like, look, I'm recording this episode with my iPhone. Like, I just set it on HD. It's not even on 4K. But it's on HD and 60 frames per second, and that's good for me. That's good for YouTube. I don't need to go buy like the old camera I bought was a Sony Alpha 6000, and like the only I couldn't afford to buy a more expensive one, and it was the like entry level mirrorless option on the market then. But I bought it, but 1 year later, the iPhone that came out now just happens to be able to do all that camera can do, and better. And it's like technological change has grown. Like it's almost exponential now. What we're doing, we're now discovering ways to go to the moon and come back with the same vessel. We're now trying to find ways to go to Mars and start to populate Mars in case Earth's resources start to get depleted. Like, when did we first have footage of people going to the moon? Like, I'm saying footage for all my conspiracy guys in the house. But, like, it seems like we're doing a lot more with a lot less at the moment. And that brings me to the crux of today's episode, which is that before in like maybe 45 to 50 years ago, you had to wait a sizable amount of time before a story could transmit across mediums. So, for instance, if a comic book, for instance, like Superman, started on pages of a comic book, it took quite a while before he could be translated onto the big screen. Then eventually he could get animated. Then eventually he could get into a video game. Like maybe like a 25 to 30 year period had to pass before you could transmit across mediums. But now we're at a point where every medium is so far ahead in terms of like technological change and in terms of the innovations they are finding newer and more efficient ways to do things in all spheres of life. But I'm just talking now in terms of storytelling. They're all movies now look. You watch, like I watched Dune. Dune was my favorite movie of 2021. Dune was perfect to me. Dune was perfect. Cinematography, action, movie, everything, personality, everything. Dune was perfect. But now, if you listen to the soundtrack of Dune, which was produced by Hans Zimmer, the soundtrack of Dune is also perfect to me. I work out to that soundtrack. My favorite track on the album is My Road Leads into the Desert. It's the final track on the album. Hans Zimmer produced that, and it's also perfect. If they've made a real-time strategy Dune game. It's going to be released, I think, this year or next year. I'm sure it's going to be perfect as well. And the point I'm making is we've gotten to the point where several different storytelling platforms are so far ahead, like in terms of just be understanding, and they've taken that time to truly understand how to tell a story, how to produce music, how to convey emotion. That adequate time has been put in. We're not talking 10,000 hours, we're talking 110,000 hours. Like, all these excellent minds who are masters at their craft come together to make a game, to make a movie, to produce an album, and it's just perfect. So now, this brings me to the final point of the video. We're going somewhere. Just join me. Just follow. Like, it's all in my head. We're going somewhere. NEPA just took lights, but like that adds to the personality of this video. Now, that brings me to the final part of this video, which is that because so little time is required to transmit your art form across platforms, we have so many crazy experiments taking place. Look at how many times the DC universe has rebooted Batman in the past 15 years alone. How long ago was Adam West Batman? I'm guessing that's like 1965 or something. That's off the top of my head. I might be wrong. Please correct me in the comments if I am. But how long ago was that? But we've gotten to a point now where when I was in secondary school, the first Batman Begins came out, then Dark Knight came out with Heath Ledger, which destroyed the world. Then that trilogy ended with Dark Knight Rises when I was in university. Then after that, now I got a job later and found out that, I finished university and I did my NYSC. Then I found out Ben Affleck was going to play a new Batman, and we've had him in 2 movies. He was going to star in a 3rd one, but then he got cancelled, and then Ben Affleck had his issues with the studio and all of that. And now I'm on my 2nd job after graduating, and we have a new one with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson. Isn't that crazy? Like, it's really wild to me. My favorite comic book of all time is Invincible. And Invincible was adapted for the big screen, I think it's called silver screen, right? Last year. And it was perfect. It was amazing. I was like, yo, there's no way you guys can do, I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, crap. Robert Kirkman's work, justice. But they did it. It was perfect. And I look at it sometimes and I'm like, yo, I'm really blessed to live in the generation that I currently do, because I get to see Invincible in the comic book, pages of a comic book, then I get to see him on a TV screen, then I'm probably going to see him on a movie because of how well that has been done. But then at the same time, I get stuff like Mortal Kombat, which came out last year, which was, in retrospect, rather trash. But it's Mortal Kombat. In 2 years, they might release another one. That's the benefit. Like, you can't fail in this current model that we live in. And I'm grateful for it. It's just that it's also very irreverent. Like, nothing is sacred. They just it's just like, oh yeah, we can get it wrong because we'll get it right. Because look at stuff like Metal Gear Solid, for instance. Same thing. All they need to do is wait 3 more years and they can rebrand it and bring something out. They don't mind destroying it. So guys, my neighbor just turned on his gen. That's going to destroy the audio. I hope you guys understood the general gist of this video, which is that we live in a world where mistakes can be made because mistakes don't matter. And it's pretty cool, and it's also pretty messed up. I love all of you. This was a Nigerian Nerd. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. We're trying to grow the channel. Peace out. I love you.